Good morning. Want to welcome each of you to the Halifax County Board of Commissioners meeting on this Monday, June 5th at 9:30. Thank each one of you for being here. Want to acknowledge that we do have a quorum. Commissioner Davis cannot be with us today. Her husband went to the ER yesterday, and we certainly want to keep her and her husband and family in our thoughts and prayers. I'm going to do the invocation, and we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance in unison. Those of you who wish to join us, please stand. Dear God, we thank you for this day. Dear Master, we thank you for life, health, and strength. But most of all, dear God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus, who hung, bled, and died for us all. Dear God, as we assemble here today, we're asking for your divine guidance and wisdom, and that whatever we do will be pleasing in your sight. Asking for a special blessing upon the commissioners, individually as well as collectively. Dear God, special blessing upon Commissioner Davis and her husband during this time of illness. We're asking that you touch him wherever he is weak so that he may be strong. Dear God, we're so thankful for our citizens in this county, asking for a special blessing upon the 49,000 citizens in this county. Special blessing upon them as well as our 566 employees who work for Halifax County. Dear God, we're so thankful for so many things. But dear God, we know that we're not perfect, and we're asking that you forgive each of us of all of our shortcomings. These and other blessings we ask in your Son Jesus' name. We all pray. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I trust that the commissioners have had an opportunity to review the agenda. I would so entertain a motion for your approval for the adoption. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Next item on the agenda is the conflict of interest statement. In accordance with the Halifax County Board of Commissioners Rules of Procedure in the North Carolina General Statute Section 153A-44, it is the duty of every member present to vote on all matters coming before the board unless there is a conflict of interest as determined by the board or by law. Does any board member have a known conflict of interest with respect to matters coming before us today? Commissioner Smith.
No conflict.
I don't have any conflict.
No conflict.
No conflict.
No conflict.
Madam Clerk, let the record so reflect that the 5 commissioners present do not have any conflict with matters coming before us today. Just before we move to the consent agenda, I do want to recognize our sheriff, Tyree Davis. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate you and all that you do for Halifax County, you and your men and women. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair.
At this time, item 1 on the consent agenda is approval of the minutes, which is item A. Item B, budget amendments. Item C, property tax collection, refund and releases, May 2023. D, truist designation resolution. Item E, authorization for continuation of current bank accounts. Item F, authorization to prepare budget amendments to prevent deficit spending. Item G, capital grant projects carried forward authorization. And item H, 2023 fireworks display. So items A through H is the consent agenda. Commissioners, any questions or comments? If not, I'll so entertain a motion for your approval if that's your pleasure.
If there are no questions or comments, I move for approval.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. All right, next item. Is the public comment period. Thank you. Just before I ask for a public comment period, I do have a public opening statement for a public comment period that I would like to read and ask that you govern yourselves accordingly. As required by General Statute 153A-52.1, the Halifax County Board of Commissioners provides a public comment period once a month as an item of business on its regular meeting agenda. Now it is the scheduled time for public comment period. When I call your name, please come to the podium and state your name, your address, and begin speaking. You will have 3 minutes, and I underscore 3 minutes to address the board, and I'm going to ask the county manager to please be the timekeeper for this. If you have documents that you want to give to the board, please hand those out before you go to the podium. I will not go over the rules of the public comment period because they were posted by the door at this room. By signing up to speak, you have acknowledged that you are familiar with the rules that you and will abide by them. We will do our best to hear from everyone who has signed up to speak, but if we're unable to accommodate everyone in the time allotted, you will be invited to speak during our next public comment period, at which time you will be given priority without having to sign up again. The Halifax County Board of Commissioners sincerely appreciate your interest in Halifax County government, and we look forward to hearing from you. At this time, I invite our first speaker to come to the podium, give your name, any organizations that's applicable, and you may begin speaking, and keep in mind you have 3 minutes. At this time, Mr. Jimmy Brown, ask you to come forward, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jimmy Baum. Excuse me. I reside at 124 Minor Street, Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. I want to speak about moving the Veteran Service Office.
Yes, sir.
I've been asked about how many times it takes to file a claim. It's probably no certain time. If you're one and done, you're very lucky. I've had to do it 7 times on one claim, so it's no telling how many times you have to do that. I was at a meeting in Lexington this past week. They were saying 22 veterans die a day from suicide. Now it's up to 23 veterans a day die from suicide. That can come from a number of things. It can come from getting a divorce, losing your job, car breaking down. It also can come from move. Stress is the main thing that's happening to veterans, and that's what suicide is coming from. I hate for someone to get hurt going up those steps on that ramp to come be on my hands if that was to happen to a veteran. I would not like it, and I'm pretty sure you would not like it. And I know it's about a done deal. I understand already moving it. I hate to see that. I hate for it to happen. I hope in council you would have a heart and think about the veterans. I know they're trying to help us as much as they can. They say they're going to have I think one of the security to come out there if they have to, the ones that can't get up the steps of the ramp, help us in. That's shaming us. In my opinion, that's shaming the veteran to do that. We like to be on our own as much as we can. And also, they said they'd bring the service officer out there to do a report about a car. What is she going to do or he going to do when it's raining, thunder and lightning, have a windstorm come up? How are they going to do that? Get in the car? You don't want no veteran service officer to get in the car with no veteran. You know, I'm not saying it's nothing against the veteran. I wouldn't want my service officer to get in there and do that. So we need to think about the weather conditions that we're going through for this, for them to come out there, and all the hardship of what's going to put on veterans. I've talked to many veterans about it, and the ones I've talked to do not like the move or not approve of the move. I know some of y'all, what I've heard, every veteran you talk to is for it. Not one that I've talked to has been for it. Everyone I've talked to has not been for it. I think this move is a very unsafe move and a very unsuccessful move, and I think you should think on this again before it's completely finished. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Excuse me, sir. Okay, he was the only one that had signed up to speak. At this time, we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is item 3, public hearings. And just before I read that public hearing statement, the first item is going to be the Halifax County fiscal year 23-24 budget. We're going to hear from our county manager in regards to anything that she want to say before I read the statement and open the public hearing. Ms. Denton?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This will be your required public hearing for the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget. I wanted to point out 2 changes that staff made as a result of your direction on May 22nd, both to the fire tax districts, the taxing district requests. Scotland Neck taxing district, fire tax district will stay the same at 7 cents. Raysville will go to 9 cents, and we have made those changes on page 2-12 of the proposed ordinance. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Anything from any of the commissioners? Okay. If not, at this time, I'm going to read a statement about, open a statement for, this is for the public hearing. And I would ask that if you come up, please govern yourselves accordingly. Public hearings are held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a specific subject. Those persons desiring to speak will give their name, their physical address, their phone number, and the name of the organization they are speaking for, if applicable. We request that each speaker limit their comments solely to the issue at hand and not direct comments towards specific individuals. In the interest of time, please do not repeat facts or issues covered by previous speakers. If you wish to comment, you should express your opinion on the subject matter and give the board an understanding of whether you favor or oppose the issue being discussed. The Halifax County Board of Commissioners values and appreciates the opportunity to listen to the citizens of Halifax County and respect requests that the above guidelines be followed. With that being said, I'm going to ask for a motion to open the public hearing, Halifax County for the fiscal year 23-24 budget. Can I get a motion to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, anyone who wishes to speak, please come up to the podium at this time and follow my instructions.
Good morning. Thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Michaela Johnson. My phone number is 252-567-3804. I currently live at 4159 U.S. Highway 258, Scotland Neck, North Carolina. I'm here today as a Director of Diversity and Inclusion for A Better Chance, A Better Community, otherwise known as ABC2, but I'm also here as a member of the community in Scotland Neck. So while I've been fortunate enough to be working with ABC2 these past 3 years, working with the Halifax community, working with different stakeholders and organizations that work within Halifax, a few things that have come up during these past 2 or 3 years regarding ARPA, the American Rescue Plan funding, that I wanted to share with you guys, and I think that you guys should consider before completing this budget process. So the American Rescue Plan funding, as you guys I'm very certain know, has been a very hot topic among counties, the nation, communities, and I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that we learned as ABC2 and myself have been leading something called the ARPA project. So the ARPA project, it have been a series of planning sessions that we plan to do throughout northeastern North Carolina, but we're currently focusing on 2 counties, one being Gates, the other Halifax. So the main goal for the ARPA project is to, one, bring different community sectors together so we can come together to talk about funding, the county, and different things like that, but also to promote accountable, equitable, and community-driven priorities for these recovery funds. And I just wanted to share a few of the things that have come up from community members during these different sessions that we've had. So one being broadband, safe and affordable housing, recreation, and as far as recreation, looking at countywide recreation, education, transportation, access to health care, wastewater and sewer management, and infrastructure, sustainability were a couple of the things that came up, and of course many more. And so I know a lot of these things are already in this proposed budget for this year, but I also wanted to take the time today to raise up community voices again to you all so that you guys might have that fresh in your mind before this budget process closed. And I hope that you take that into consideration. And thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, anyone else?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Terrence Whitby. I reside at 414 Becker Colony Drive, apartment 1304 in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. I come to you today as the Director of Creative Development and Communications of ABC, A Better Chance, A Better Community, but also as a resident of Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina, and a resident of Halifax County in general. One of the things I did want to bring to the forefront as far as just concerns that I've seen in my community was things surrounding recreational activities, having more funding for those so we can advocate for to have healthy and also safe spaces for kids to meet and also join together and organize. I think that is really important for us in general as a community, especially for the youth. One of the other things I also wanted to shed light on was mental health issues that's running rampant, especially in those towns that are impoverished or that have not have access to resources that many other communities may have access to. So being able to address mental health concerns, because that is a vital issue, because this will also let us be more effective at work and also within our community to be advocates in our own community as well. While working with A Better Chance, A Better Community, I've also had the chance to be a part of a statewide campaign known as School Meals for All. And I did want to shed light and highlight that for you guys as well, because that campaign is a statewide campaign and initiative to address free meals, which is going to be school lunch and breakfast for all kids in North Carolina. Some of our counties already have been on the forefront of this for providing universal free meals for their students, but this is not the case statewide. This leads to issues surrounding child hunger, stigmatisms inside of the school where there's sometimes classism. Kids are getting bullied because they may not afford it, or other kids may feel like they have certain privileges that other kids do not have because they have to pay. Addressing these as far as A Better Chance, A Better Community, our primary focus is on the grassroots level, which is the community. We want to make sure that we highlight a lot of these issues such as food insecurities, the food deserts that we have inside of this where we have lack of resources for foods, because we know that no one can learn if they are hungry. And that's one of the biggest things we wanted to address, and we want our community to have our voices. So one thing we do want to say, if you guys can go online when you get the chance to schoolmealsforallnc.com, and you can actually go to the action link to take action and sign up and be a part of that. And we do have more information after the meeting as well if you wanted to connect with us so you can get involved and let your voice be heard or just sign up to be a part of the coalition. That is one of the few things I did want to highlight for our community, because as someone who has been in this community, has been grow up in this community, I do want to see it become better for in the future for the next generation as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Whitby. And by the way, that little young lady there, she's mighty pretty and mighty quiet.
Mighty sweet, my gosh, I want to kiss her.
Okay, anyone else?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Regina Brooks. I live at 412 Sycamore Street in Weldon. My telephone number, 252-676-9732. I am a 25-year resident of Weldon, a native of Martin County. I am here this morning only by the grace of God. I'm so thankful I'm here. I haven't been able to be here because I have sick relatives in Martin County, no relatives here. I am here because I am so distressed, upset with the educational system, not only in Halifax, Martin, North Carolina, but in our country. I came from Martin County with 23 years in education, teacher of the year twice, 5 degrees. After the death of a husband, Dr. Ernest Brooks, who was at that time Assistant Superintendent of Weldon City Schools, a son who left Weldon at 16 and was accepted at Morehouse, it seems as if Halifax County doesn't know me, doesn't even want me to have any positions in the area, but that's okay. I know who I am and whose I am. You will be hearing more from me later. I am a very, very staunch educator. That is my anointing. And I'm here to ask you, commissioners, to get on one accord with your local school board members, your local schools, your local communities. Our communities need to do better. Education begins at home. I know. The foundation is from birth to 5 years old. I know. I taught kindergarten for 23 years in Martin County. I, as I state, have degrees in 5 areas. I know what education is and what it should be. Being a widow and soon to be a grandmother, which I would be very proud of, I ask you to get on one accord. It's time for change in education. Why not you be at the forefront? Show North Carolina, show Halifax, Martin, and all other counties and the country what education can and should be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Okay, anyone else?
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all for this opportunity. I am Chester Williams. I'm the founder and CEO of A Better Chance, A Better Community, also known as ABC2, and I live at 310 Richneck Road, Enfield, North Carolina. And my telephone number is 252-673-5080. And I stand before you just to echo some of the things that the young leaders of our county have shared with you, but as people call me, Captain Engagement. So I want to give an overview as in terms of things that are very important that I would love for you to strongly consider as you finalize the budget for this 23-24 fiscal year. Of course, recreation. I want us to take a look at the current county health rankings that we started in 2014 at number 99. In 2020, we was 95, and now in 2023, we are 97. And I think recreation is one of those critical points that we should focus on. And no, it's not going to be an overnight sensation because we didn't get here overnight. But I want us to be able to look at some opportunities that have been shared over the years in our community engagement process, and that is a district park in the southeast part of the county. Look at the support of the role of a recreation coordinator because we have so much assets here, and I think it will begin to coordinate that we can really truly look at our recreation gaps and support that. Support the Park and Recreation Advisory Board, guidance and recommendation for the master plans updates and moving towards the establishment of a countywide Parks and Rec department. In addition to recreation, looking at safe and affordable housing, I know that Halifax County is already part of the Shono Area Housing Consortium, but using this opportunity to invest in ways to set standards of intersectionality. So we're looking at recreation, digital inclusion, food access, and oasis, and healthcare as we establish these housing units throughout the county or the region. Looking at wastewater sewage remediation, wastewater assessments of service pipes and infrastructure, looking for funding resources to assist homeowners who may not be able to afford those remediation requirements for their homes. Support with water and sewer testing, and connected with the health department to be able to provide some remediation services that may be available there. And also the county working with municipalities to do a comprehensive analysis of the entire county water and looking at the water contamination problems that we do have here and how we can resolve those. And assist with connecting those individuals that lives in circumstances where they're not able to connect to well water or have access to county water. Board of Elections. Halifax County needs to increase pay for poll workers to help recruit other poll workers. Increased pay can help ensure polling places are adequately staffed and prevent long lines of voters during election days. This wasn't included in the budget, but new voting machines for those that are disabled are needed in the county. The current automatic machines are nearly 20 years old, and upgrading to express mark machines will provide a better voting experience. The next one is transportation. We all know about the North Carolina Clean Transportation Plan. So strategizing locally how we can support that and be at the forefront of that here in Halifax County. Looking at the local countywide transportation plan revitalization, because we do have a plan that's been sitting there and has been worked on, but then things have happened, bringing that back to the forefront because transportation is critical to our overall economic vitality here in Halifax. And also looking at possibly creating a transportation authority or county transportation task force to be able to alleviate some of that work from a grassroots perspective. And last but not least, broadband, digital inclusion. As you may not know, or may know, that Halifax County has a digital inclusion task force that ABC2 has been a part of and been engaged with. And then also Halifax County is a pilot for the North Carolina Healthcare Broadband Coalition. So we want to make sure that we're a part of that, a part of the BE program and the equity program, so that we can be that standard for the state with this pilot, using telehealth as a means to connect broadband across the board. So looking at a digital coalition budget that can be able to do a digital gap assessment, planning, creating an inventory map using GIS. We have CET classes that can help support that, along with the GIS club that's here in Halifax County. Also, be able to look at that part-time staff that would be digital educators or digital navigators. Have training resources through North Star Digital Library Training that will offer 500 learner accounts and 3,500 assessments per year for only $500. Community meetings and digital education sessions so we can build the capacity of our community around broadband that is more than just a Wi-Fi connection, that it can be a game changer for our county in terms of being an economic force in this state. And then also working with the COG to provide assistance with administering the funds, whatever that may be, measuring the digital inclusion task force success and impact, and reporting on impact, and providing oversight as assistance with ABC2 and others engaged with the digital task force. So I thank you all for that time, just to be able to share that with you, just to add some things to highlight in your conversations, and hope that you will strongly consider these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We appreciate you and all the work that you do for Halifax County and ABC2 program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, colleagues, I don't see anyone else coming to the poll. Can I get a motion to close?
Since we see no one else comment, Mr. Chairman, I move that we close this public hearing.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Johnson. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. All right, this time got another public hearing that's coming up. We're going to ask Mr. Chris Roundtree to come up to the podium. He's our planning director for Halifax County. It's a petition for a road name change to Vanessa's Way, something like that. I may not be pronouncing it right, but I'm sure he'll correct me. And then after that, he's got another one. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. Our first request this morning for petition for road name change. Ms. Stephanie Creedle and Mr. Marvin Mullen have submitted the petition for this road name change to rename the existing McDonald Road to Vassana's Way in honor and recognition of Vasco and Anna Williams. These road name change petitions are considered every 3 years by your board, and the county may not name or rename any or assign numbers until it held its public hearing on any matter. The property owners, they are listed within the petition that you have attached to your agenda item. Also, the notice of the public hearing is attached, and there is a map as well. Just for reference, this road is approximately 5 miles outside of Roanoke Rapids off of Thelma Road, going west on Thelma Road. And after you turn off on McDonald, it transcends over to Roanoke Rapids Lake almost. And finally attached is the ordinance or resolution to rename the road if your board do so chooses.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Roundtree. Any questions or comments of our planning director? Yes.
One more item. You have 2 letters that were submitted to me late. They're in front of you in support of the renaming.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Johnson?
Just one question. Do we know the history on the McDonald?
There is a long history. I think Ms. Creedle, would you like to help describe that history?
Certainly.
All right.
Just come up, Ms. Cradle. Good morning. Dr. Cradle, tell us who you are. I know you are, but just tell the audience and folks who may not know who you are.
Good morning, Chairman Bryan. I'm here with my cousin Marvin Mullen, who is my fellow petitioner. My grandfather, Vasco Williams, purchased almost 54 acres of land in Roanoke Rapids around the early 1900s, he and his brother-in-law, Sterling Brown. The Thelma community has a rich history, and it's a history of free people of color. It's a history of former enslaved members who made that community their home. And so my grandfather purchased that land, and at one point, the McDonald's, there was a family who purchased some property near the end of the lake, at the lake. They were unable to reach their property because the grantor that gave them the property did not give them a right-of-way. My grandfather, as magnanimous as he was, I'm not certain as to what his intent was, but he allowed a road to be built in the middle of his farmland. And that road gave the McDonald's access to property that they would not have been able to access without my grandfather's generosity. And so as the history is that those private roads began to be named by the county, at some point the McDonald's petitioned for that road to be named McDonald Road, to the consternation of my family who had been living on that property since the early 1900s. We feel very strongly that the Thelma community's rich history needs to be told, chronicled, and shared with the community. We believe that that site in Thelma may be probably our fourth Underground Railroad site in Halifax County. We are committed to the history of that. We are committed to making sure that the history of African Americans who bought farmland and who owned farmland, that history and that legacy remains. And so the McDonald's no longer live there. They vacated that home, they sold that home, and now our family wants to make sure that that road is shares the history of Vasco Williams and Anna Williams, who purchased that land, raised their families on that land, and contributed greatly to the success of Halifax County as a whole. Also on that property, about 500 yards down from the entrance of that road is a historical African American cemetery that our family is now committed to make sure that we can clean that up. There are resting places in that cemetery that were in the early 1800s, and so that needs to be preserved. We've also turned our grandfather's house that sits right at the the left of that road into a historical site. We have brought our artifacts into that home because we believe that it is our responsibility to preserve our history, to share that history, and to make sure that for generations to come, they recognize what free people of color and what former enslaved men and women had to do to preserve their legacy and their land ownership. So that is the history that I have of that. And I don't know if my cousin Marvin has any additional history or not, but.
No, just that I appreciate the history lesson.
Yes, ma'am. That was a lesson. Mr. Merlin, thank you and your wife for being here. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, she did very well.
I have to agree, she did. Dr. Crail is tremendous. And also, I think Sandra Bryant would love to hear about that fourth location for the Underground Railroad. That's great. Okay. With that being said, anything else, commissioners? If not, I'll so entertain a motion to, hold on for a second before you do that. Let me read the public statement again. This is a statement in regards to the petition for the road name change that just presented by Mr. Roundtree. Public hearings are held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a specific subject. Those persons desiring to speak will give their name, their physical address, their phone number, and the name of the organization they are speaking for, if applicable. We're requesting that each speaker limit their comments solely to the issue at hand and not direct comments towards specific individuals. In the interest of time, please do not repeat facts or issues covered by the previous speakers. If you wish to comment, you should express your opinion on the subject matter and give the board an understanding of whether you favor or oppose the issue being discussed. Halifax County Board of Commissioners values and appreciates the opportunity to listen to the citizens of Halifax County. Respectfully request that the above guidelines be followed. At this time, commissioners, I would so entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Johnson. I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. Those of you who Anyone who wishes to come and speak regarding the petition to the road name change may do so at this time, and just follow my instructions.
Having seen no one come forward, make a motion that we close this public hearing.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, Mr. Roundtree, I think you have another one. Road name change to A&M Way. Okay,
Yes, sir. Their second petition for road name change this morning is from Tracy and Kenny Sykes for the changing of the existing Pew's Home Park to A&M Way. And as mentioned, these road name petitions take place every 3 years, and we are holding the required public hearing for that matter. The petition for the road name is included in your packet, as well as the notice for that public hearing and the ordinance and resolution as well. This location is actually a mobile home park, so they are the owners of the property, and it's located in the Littleton area, right off of Roper Springs Road. And are you Mr. Sykes? Okay. All right, that's all I have.
okay, all right. Okay, before I open up the public hearing again, I do have a statement, and it's the same statement that I just read. We've heard it a number of times this morning, so we all should know it by heart now, right? Public hearings are held for the purpose of receiving comments from the public regarding a specific subject. Those persons desiring to speak will give their name, their physical address, and their phone number, and the name of the organization they are speaking for, if applicable. We request that each speaker limit their comments solely toward the issue at hand and not direct comments towards specific individuals. In the interest of time, please do not repeat facts or issues covered by previous speakers. If you wish to comment, you should express your opinion on the subject matter and give the board an understanding of whether you favor or oppose the issue being discussed. The Halifax County Board of Commissioners values and appreciates the opportunity to listen to the citizens of Halifax County and respectfully request that above guidelines be followed. I'm going to ask Mr. Roundtree to step back, and anyone who wishes to come and speak may do so at this time. Follow my instructions. Okay, thank you, Attorney Rollins. He just reminded me that I need to open this public hearing. May I get a motion to do that? Okay, by Vice Chair Brewer, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor by the sign aye. All opposed? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My
Good
name
morning.
is Tracy Sykes. I'm here with my husband, Kenny Sykes.
Okay.
We are the owners of AMS entities that just recently purchased the mobile home park that Mr. Roundtree spoke of in Littleton, North Carolina. And we did file a petition to change the name that's currently Pew's Mobile Home Park. However, under the business AMS entities, our goal is to provide safe and affordable homes to the Halifax County area. We both were born and raised here in Halifax County. We've recently moved away, but one of our goals was to be able, when we were financially able to do so, was to start an organization to be able to come back and provide safe and affordable home in our community, which has led to the purchase of Pew's Mobile Home Park and the petition to change the name. We do understand that was a family name at the time, and also there, just over the years, it has certainly changed ownership a few times and has been, maybe some negative connotations to the mobile home parks and issues that happen there. However, with the renaming and rebranding under our business of AMS Entities LLC, that again is there to provide not only safe and affordable housing, but also financial literacy and just improving the community in general and understanding there is a need for housing in the community. We are requesting, to change the name in the effect of rebranding, rehabilitating the park to, again, provide the safe and affordable housing
and try to remove some of the negative connotation that comes along with the mobile home park over the years, and just, again, rehabilitate, rebrand, start off with, a better, more improved, positive impact to the community. So I do thank you for your time, and we do request if we could change the name in honor, I'm sorry, not in honor, but just to align with the rebranding and rehabilitation of the mobile home park. Thank you.
Ms. Sykes, thank you so much.
No problem.
And I appreciate your husband being here as well. At this time, anyone else? Okay. Would anyone else like to come and speak in regards to that? Okay, if not, I'll entertain the motion, Commissioners. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Now, if you're interested in the outcome of the actions on the public hearing, don't go anywhere. We got one item in between, so you can see what happened if you kind of just hang around. We're going to move to item 4 on the agenda, which is the agenda item USDA Reconnect Project Update. We're so anxious and excited to hear about this. We have Eric Dixon, Strategic Advisor, Access On Networks. Good morning, sir, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate it. Let's see if I can get this thing up and running. All right, let's see. Make sure I can advance this thing. Which one? Page down?
Page down.
Yeah, it didn't work. There we go. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Mr. Chair, and distinguished members of the Commissioner Board. As you stated, my name is Eric Dixon. Got about 10 minutes here. I'm going to give you a quick introduction, talk about the Reconnect 3 grant just really quickly, talk about the services we plan to offer here, talk also about a Reconnect 4 grant application that we have in progress, so you know the latest about it, and then answer any questions you might have. Please stop me. I can get to talking sometimes, so please stop me if you have any questions along the way. Introduction. I'm going to make a comment. I'm not here trying to toot my own horn with this part. I do this for credibility because I've talked to a lot of people in the country, and it all starts with credibility, but it's also motive. What's the motive behind us doing this? My motive isn't, and you can see by the stuff up here, I'm not going to go through I came out of high-tech world. I was an NC State grad. I grew up in a rural part of the state in the West. So did Steve Ledford, who's there as the CEO of Access On. Steve worked for me our entire career. I hired him out of NC State, so we've known each other for a very long time. And we both are motivated the same way, okay? And as you can see, when I introduced Access On, our goal in life isn't to figure out a way to extract as much money as we can out of every person who lives in this state. Our goal is genuinely to try to make North Carolina a better place, okay? It's just simple as that. We started up here. I've noted I'm a Warren County property owner, but we spent a lot of time trying to decide where we would start to focus our time, and this whole area, starting in Warren, Halifax, Northampton, seemed like there was a lot of need. Okay, so that's why we started here. I'm also on the Board of Trustees at NC State, and NC State has a lot of interest in a lot of this too. The CIO of NC State is a great guy, and started working with him conceptually on how some of this could work. This is an introduction into Access On. In the upper left corner, you see the icon for Access On, and you see the loop of co-ops that are part of the Access On group. It was created in 1994 was ATMC at the time, in the lower right, Focus Broadband now. Some of these have changed. Xeris used to be Yadtel, Yadkin County Telephone. But anyway, you get a feel. These are all rural co-ops all over the state, and we cover about 50% of the rural parts of the state. And we're trying to grow and keep covering more. A key point here, I'm going to say it again, is this is a group of nonprofits. Back to the not trying to bilk every person in the state out of as much money as we can to figure out how big our profits can be. We try to make enough money to cover our costs, but we're nonprofit co-ops by definition. Okay, I just think that's important. So we cover about 240,000 residents, over 10,000 businesses, over 1,600 healthcare. I can go on. It's education, government buildings that we're covering, and we're expanding. The Access On that you see on that circle is we've named it Lightspeed Internet to differentiate from networks. That's our transport network that hooks them all together, but our local service will be called Access on Lightspeed Internet. And you can see Focus in the upper right is also expanding up to the northeast, and we plan to do more, as you're going to see in the next 3 slides. But that gives you a feel for what we are. Okay, this is the Reconnect 3 grant. It was, we applied in March of 22. We were notified of an award in September of 22. There was a press release with the USDA head and the governor in, I believe it was late October. But as you can see on the right, there is a vertical line to the right side of that screen. That's the county line between Warren County and Halifax County. And that shaded yellow area and all those little dots are potential users of the service, whether it be a residence, a business, or whatever else it might be. So this is what it covers. And so in Warren County, 42 businesses, 30 in Halifax, 1,200 residences in Warren, 650 or so in Halifax, et cetera. So this gives you a feel of the coverage of the Reconnect 3 grant. Now, this is what we have committed and agreed to with the USDA to cover with the grant. There's a big gap in the middle of that we also had applied to cover. They asked us to remove it because other companies have tried to reserve that area for something else, so we did not cover it. I will tell you, it doesn't mean we won't cover more than this. This just means what we're committed to do for the $17.5 million that we're getting per this grant. Okay, so this gives you a feel for the coverage, and I'm going to show you another slide and a couple that I think will help also bridge it out even more for Halifax County. So this is what we're going to offer as part of the service. We're going to offer buried fiber to the building, whether it be a home, whether it be a business, whatever it might be. It's going to be fiber optic cable. All underground. There will be a couple of equipment huts where the fiber will come up out of the ground. It'll come up out of the ground at someone's home or at a business, obviously, to connect them in. But all of the core connectivity will be underground. And why are we doing it? Because it's the best possible way to do it. There's no doubt. I mean, there's satellites, there's fixed wireless, there's all these other things. There's even coax cable that we know about. Fiber optic cable is secure. When it's underground, it makes it secure. Nobody's going to come in and try to, it's harder to cut if it's up on a pole. Some people hang fiber on the poles. That's easier to also cut. Okay? Consistent, not subject to interference like coax cable is because it uses light, not electric pulses, and it's future-proofed. Fiber in the ground, people estimate 40 to 60 years of being able to provide service without maybe needing equipment upgrades. So we felt it was the best to do the best possible thing we could do at this point. 100 meg up and 100 meg down speeds, up to 1 gig up and 1 gig down. The technology can go higher. That's the future-proof part. As needs of traffic and bandwidth go up, we can do more. We will offer data only. If you just need access to the internet, we'll also offer a voice bundling option to add a phone if someone still wants to use what was the old landline phone concept. Affordability, $49.95 is our entry point in the grant area. That also is what we've committed. Could it be a little less? Yes. Especially for the higher speeds. That's one of the things that we think we can even do that at a really great price on that 1 gig speed level, which is it's an amazing service. We also will have an affordable connectivity program, ACP. That's a U.S. program, which would allow the price to be around $30 for the folks eligible for it, to be able to get access. The other big thing we know is we want to try to make this easy to get going with. That's the other big deal to us. So, we're going to try to have a really nice prepackaged installation at a home. It's not going to be, we're going to hook it up on the side of a house and just get it connected and then say bye. We're going to try to come in and use Wi-Fi routers so someone can be operational, let their phones attached to it and all of the stuff in their homes without having to figure it out or go hire somebody else to come in and tell them how to use it. That's something we think is really important the education part, I guess, is we think is important to get people going with it. So that's the service we will offer. This is the timeline on it. The public announcement, I've already said, the agreement was finished with the USDA in 1Q. Any day now to release funds. We say 2Q. Last week we finished up some, another little piece of paperwork they needed. We're waiting any day. But that's key. That is a very key point, because once that's officially released, because they do not allow us to spend any money. I mean, I really can't come up here if I follow the letter of the law, but I come on my own accord, once they release funds, it allows us to actually order things. We can't finalize and sign, for example, a contract with a firm called Mastech to bury the fiber in the ground until that happens. And it's sort of been a challenge. We have, however, worked on all the engineering parts of it and worked with those companies and have them lined up, the other ones we need to help do this. And so we will, that's why that 2Q date on kickoff contracts and orders is the same. We're ready to go to do that. Now, what that will do down in the timeline risk, and why it says initial customer goes live is TBD, is because we can't finalize when that person goes live until we make those first orders on the fiber optic cable and the networking equipment. And those turnaround times, it's been crazy over the last couple years. We watch it constantly. They went up to 2 years. It used to be 3 months back in the day, say 5 years ago before the pandemic hit, and then it went up to as long as 2 years to get an order back. 2 years. We've watched it come back. It has gotten better, but this will be the driver of when we can get the first folks live. We got to get an order and get the fiber in. Like, we can't bury anything, obviously, until we get it. So once we get that, we can put a target on when the first customer would go live. All right? We're also working hard. The last line is property for those 2 equipment huts I mentioned near Axtell in Warren County and Hollister in Halifax County, and that's hard to see, but there's a little picture of it. It's a little 50 by 50 fenced-in, secure, very secure with backup and electricity, that has the networking equipment that takes all of the data that comes in from folks' homes and gets them out to the internet. It moves it to Raleigh, the big data centers, and it has to have a junction point. And that's what that is. That's a picture of one. The little hut part is 10 foot by 20. It's not very big. That it'll have electrical backup and things that go with it. And also it'll have security, because for obvious reasons you want to keep it secure. Okay, so that's what we're trying to finalize now, and we're doing this in parallel with the USDA close so we can be ready to go. We've got a line to order those huts, and we'll order them with the equipment as soon as they say go. But we're getting close. We're close. Okay, we just put this website online for folks. The name, not Access on Networks, it'll be called Access on Internet, because it's a little different. They'll be able to go to this website. Anyone can. They can click on that. They can put their address in. They can put their name and address if they're interested in service. They'll be able to look if they're in the coverage area with that address. All right, so we're just hoping to get a little outreach going to let folks start seeing it a bit, even though it's still going to be a little time to get folks going. They'll at least know. Okay, this is I think about my last slide before question. This is the Reconnect 4 piece, and this has I would say a much larger impact on Halifax County. This was submitted back in October of 2022. Scotland Neck, Hobgood, Enfield. It starts in the north up there. I walk over it quickly, pointed out, is if you look at Scotland Neck on the east side of the county, up there's Halifax, so just south of here. And in the coverage, there's Enfield, and that orange here is the Reconnect 3. So Hollister and such would be right to the left of that. This gives you a feel of the coverage. Our goal is to try to coverage the majority of where everyone else in Halifax County pretty much lived, other than the areas that were already covered. Like Halifax City is already covered by, I forgot who, but there's someone else who provides service here.
So when you're talking about just south of Halifax, you're talking about Scotland Neck, Enfield, Hobgood, is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? Okay.
Yeah, all those cities, and that blue goes, and it goes actually down to Whitaker's in Nash County, but you can sort of get a feel for it. Follows all the major roads. All right, and so, and we also are synced with RDOF and NC Great Grants, which are other grants that are going on. We coordinate with the NCDIT, and we, try to make, Angie Bailey is our contact there. We try to coordinate with them, so they're doing things in other places. We don't double hit, and we're trying to all do the same thing. You can see the impact. Obviously, it's much bigger than the lower left corner in Reconnect 3 in Halifax County. It's over 3,000 residences. So this will have a big impact. However, has not been awarded yet. Just to be clear, it could be any day. They've taken longer to tell us about awards on this than they did Reconnect 3. If you know anyone and have any friends in the USDA, yeah, you can certainly give them a buzz and tell them this might interest you. It wouldn't hurt. We have recommendations from a lot of people to help make this happen, but you never know. Anyway, that's Reconnect 4. What questions can I answer? Hopefully I didn't talk too fast.
I have a question about the Holliston area. The numbers look sort of small. Is there a reason for the smallness?
You mean the number of residences?
Exactly.
It's based on maybe some of the GIS tools we used. It may not be exact. It could be low. So geographically, whenever we map it out, and also, it was also mapped out a year and a half ago to create those numbers with the USDA. So we use, there's, for example, a tool called Connect Base that really takes advantage of a lot of GIS information to help generate some of these numbers. And that's what we use. So it could be low.
Great question, Vice Chair Brewer. So what she's saying, piggybacking off that, that's subject to change, right?
What's the number to cover?
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Those numbers there, solely estimates. It's geographic coverage. Anything in those areas, we are going to cover. There's nobody who's going to be, just because that dot was on there, it's not that dot's going to get one and another one isn't. And in fact, let me make another point really quick. Let me go back to the map. In fact, if you look on a lot of those roads and edges of where those coverages are, I mean, we'll also obviously offer it across the street. They're not even on there. There's dots that aren't even showing across the street. Well, we're going to be rolling right down the street. We would obviously offer across the street too. But so, like I said, those 651 residences, it could be 1,000, and actually, it'd be great if it was. The more, the better.
I'm really happy to hear that. I live in Holliston.
Awesome.
And I can't go to church because people are asking, when is it going to happen? I can't give them a date or time. So my question is, do you have any inkling of when the funding will be released?
I'll give you like I mentioned, the data point last week. We ask them weekly. They're going through, nationwide, they are going through all of those folks who won grants, and they seem to be going through them not in parallel, but in series. So they say, well, as soon as we finish with so-and-so, we'll finish you, so we sort of hit them up about every week. We saw 2 weeks ago, we saw them actually finishing a couple of, they wanted final proof of our bank account, some just more details associated with finishing, and gives us hope it's any day. They say it could be any time. We'll get right back to you, though. We're going to let you know. So we hope it's any day. And I wish I could say more details.
My next question pertains to this. On your slides, you had the affordable service options, and I think one option was $49.95. I think you made the statement that it could be as low as $30 per package. How is a person eligible, or what is the eligibility?
Yeah, that affordable connectivity program, and I wish I could remember the specifics, because it's a program that you apply for, and you will be able to apply for it whenever you will have a side application on the website, where when someone comes to request service, they can also apply for that service as well. It's tied to, and it's all U.S. government stuff. It's not ours, it's theirs. And I have to tell you, I can't remember the specifics of what are the criteria that you can apply for it, but it generally, a lot of people could. That's just what I remember. It's been 6 months since I looked at the details, so I apologize for not, but that you can look up affordable connectivity program, and it's very clear on what it takes to get there. So apologies, I don't know the line items, but.
Okay.
What other questions can I answer?
Any other questions? Great presentation. Yeah.
Just waiting for it, ready?
Oh, I can't tell you. My goal is Chief Richardson down in Hollister. She said last time I was there, and I try to visit up here and folks, the stakeholders, as much as I can. I try to release stakeholder updates, and she said to me, she said, Mr. Dixon, she said, a lot of people have said things like this to us before, but we've never seen anything. That really sort of got to me. I said, I'm not going anywhere until this is done, personally. I mean, I'm
Mr.
just,
Dickens, she's exactly right. You know, her promises all the time, and
Yeah.
stuff doesn't happen, but, you know, we're confident this is gonna happen. By the way, we got a commissioner absent today, and you will hear the same thing from her, Commissioner Davis. She's not here today, but she's from Hollister, and, as well as Ms. Johnson, but you would have heard from her today, too, if she had been here.
well, you know, when,
I don't want to be selfish
Yeah.
because I live in Hollister. Very happy about the other areas, Scotland
Right.
and Bill.
I will tell you that the order by which we will, people will go hot will be based on where those equipment huts are, and one of those equipment huts is right here at this intersection. So in this area will be, sort of, it'll grow out from here, because once that equipment's up, we'll start putting in fiber from that equipment hut. Some of the fiber will go down to Raleigh, of course, and connect back to the bigger internet, but we'll start here, of course, over in Warren County, up south of Axtell, that end. And there'll be the fiber loop between both and then down, and then we'll start turning people on in that order.
It is so crucial because now our children, as Ms. Brooks said a few minutes ago, they would have to rely on internet. College students that are in the area have to rely on internet, so it's not a luxury anymore.
Totally agree. Minimum requirement.
Ms.
Anything
Johnson
else?
is- No, but Ms. Johnson is so right. You know, I can't add any more to that. She's 100% right. Anyone else? Okay, that was a great presentation. Great job, and appreciate you being here today.
Thank y'all very much.
And by the way, the attorney and I, we got something to say about that tie you got on.
I debated wearing it. I'm sorry if
Look, that's a beautiful tie. We just Carolina folks.
well, now, I don't know if you saw, I have my master's degree from Carolina, so I just had to pick one, and
Yeah.
thank y'all so much.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you. Nice tie, Eric, by the way. Okay, at this time, we're going to move to item 5 on the agenda, which deals with the action on the public hearing. Then after we'll do that, we'll take a little break, because I know some of you sitting out there just for the actions. In regards to item A, petition of the road name change, Basanas Way. Mr. Roundtree, you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Commissioner, Attorney Rowley?
If I could just technically clarify, you actually have an ordinance to adopt that's in your agenda. We do a lot of things by resolution, but
Right.
the statute about road name changes requires that you do this by ordinance. That's in your agenda packet. Simple motion to adopt the ordinance as presented, which is fine with that.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move the ordinance be adopted as presented for the name change.
Okay, and that's item A.
Item
All right. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, that item passed. All right, item B, position for road name change to A&M Way. Mr. Roundtree, you have anything you want to add on that?
Nothing further.
Okay. Attorney Rawls, you want to make a comment on that?
No, it's also a similar ordinance.
Okay. Commissioners? Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, both those items' name got changed. And thank you all for being here. At this time, Commissioners, please listen to me. It's 25 to 11 by that clock. At quarter till 11, please be back in your seats. Thank you. 10 minutes. We're going to move to the agenda items. Under item A, Phyllis Bryant appeal or exclusion application denial. I'm going to ask Mr. Shane Lynch, will he come forward at this time? Where's Mr. Lynch? Okay. Good morning, sir. Mr. Lynch, please come forward. Let me swear you. Left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give to this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Bryan.
Yes, sir.
Board members, Madam Clerk, County Attorney. I'm here before you today. I have an appeal from Ms. Phyllis Bryant. Ms. Bryant has made an application for the disabled exclusion for property taxpayers. That program is defined under North Carolina General Statute 105-277.1, and it allows a property tax exclusion for elderly citizens or disabled taxpayers that meet certain criteria. This program excludes the greater part of $25,000 in value or 50% in value, whichever is higher, of the appraised value of a permanent residence of a qualifying owner. A qualifying owner must either be 65 years of age or totally and permanently disabled. Ms. Bryant made a timely application for the disabled exclusion. She submitted her application in January. We did not completely process it until the month of April. We were waiting on some, first we had got some income information. Secondly, we were having the discussion about permanent residency. Although Ms. Bryant meets the criteria for the disability and the income requirements, the assessor determined, in my opinion, that it was not her permanent residence. And this is where Ms. Bryant and I disagree. Under those circumstances, I denied her application. And one of the reasons, I'll just summarize this, Ms. Bryant made a valuation appeal in the tax year 2021. Okay, we had value on the house and then land, and we made an adjustment to the land, and we took all of the value off the house. And this was due to supplemental information that she provided by a hired appraiser stating that the house has no value. And that's what I put in my agenda item, is that these are not my words nor Ms. Bryant's words. The appraiser said that the house is not safe for sanitary, it needs a bulldozer to remove it, and Ms. Bryant even provided an estimate of demolition. So at that time, you know, that's good information for a valuation appeal, so we removed the value.
Right.
And now here we are in the tax year 2023, and I'm processing Ms. Bryant's exclusion application, and the first thing I'm wondering is, like, what am I going to exclude? Because there's no value on the house anymore, because it was labeled unsound, a value of which Ms. Bryant at the time agreed with. So if this board finds that this is Ms. Bryant's permanent residence, the only thing that's left to exclude is the land value. Okay, I just want to make that clear. So you've got the information in my agenda item, also Ms. Bryant's appeal letter, and she's got some information with her, so I'm just going to let her speak, and I'll be available for any questions if you have some.
Okay, any questions or comments of Mr. Lynch at this point? I do have one question, and then we'll hear from Ms. Bryant. I'm going to have to swear you too, just like I did him. Is it proper to include land like you do a residence as far as exclusion?
So
I guess I don't know if I'm wording that right or not.
By definition in the statute, we're able to exclude the house, any accompanying buildings, and up to 1 acre of home site. So
Can a 1 acre home site be separate from the others? or does it have to be inclusive? Because I know when you talk about the house as well as the land, that's real estate.
Right.
Or the land could be real estate. by
Yeah, the
itself.
land's considered real estate
Right.
as well. So you've got a total real estate value.
Uh-huh.
For record-keeping purposes, we break it down to a land value, a dwelling value, and then outbuilding value.
Right.
The General Assembly allows for us to take the dwelling value, any outbuildings associated with that dwelling, and up to 1 acre of land. And we combine those, all those together into a total value, and then we can either reduce the taxable value by 25,000 or half, whichever is greater.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Lynch to kind of go through that for me again. We are not including the house.
The house has no value right
No
now.
value.
We've got the data on the house. So we have the sketch of the home, and we've got picture data on the home. But we actually, so we have condition codes that we use. Excellent being the greatest, very good, good, average, fair, poor, very poor, and then unsound is our lowest. And unsound in our schedule of values that was adopted by this board in 2020 means not habitable. Okay? So when a taxpayer gives me evidence that their home is not habitable, then we apply the unsound code, which then removes any value from the dwelling, which is what we did.
No value for the house.
None on the outbuildings.
Talk about that 1 acre land.
Correct. So right now, we have, on that, well, we can exclude up to 1 acre. The actual acreage on Miss Bryant's property is, I can get that for you. Is it 2? Yeah, so out of her 2 acres, we allocate 1 acre as a home site. And we have that adjusted, I think, for some wetness
Yes.
in the back.
No,
So-
in the front.
I'm sorry, in the front. So, right now, the total value on this parcel is $10,200. So if this board does deem that this is her permanent residence, then that would be excluded. But again, my contention is, if something is not habitable, or you appeal, and your argument for appeal is that it is dilapidated, and you actually have a demolition estimate, then I don't see how that can double as your permanent residence. She'll explain that.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right. Attorney Rollins.
If I may, Ms. Johnson, may help to clarify a bit further, just so we all understand, the state constitution and this general statute allow that a permanent residence that's occupied can be designated as a special class of property to be subject to this exemption. So if there's just land is not a special class of property that can be exempted. But in terms of a permanent residence, what Shane is explaining is that that residence can be dwelling, an outbuilding, and up to 1 acre of land. That's the permanent residence that may be subject to the special class of exemption. The question for us today is whether or not this is a permanent residence. And the difficulty is that it has no value because Ms. Bryant had asked a couple of years ago, indicated that it was unsound, which meant it was not habitable. So this is why we're here today. Land by itself does not give this.
And I will add that it can be unoccupied as well. So something that Ms. Bryant's going to talk about, which I totally agree with, is the temporary absence portion of the statute. Now, there are times due to illness where a property owner or taxpayer will be displaced from their home for periods of time, whether it be in a rehabilitation center or in the hospital, as long as when they leave that place for whatever reason, that they have this permanent residence to go back to. Okay? And the question here is with this being described as unsound and not habitable, is this the permanent residence that she will go back to? And so that's the impasse that we're at right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Lynch.
you're welcome.
Anything else from the commissioners or the attorney, county manager, you have anything? Okay. All right, this time, I'm going to ask Ms. Bryant, are you able to come this way? I
Yes.
see you.
I am Quaker, so therefore I do not take oaths. I have to affirm.
Okay, you can affirm. I'll affirm. I'm just going to put this Bible over here, hold it for you.
you.
Hang on for a second. I'll go ahead and read my own statement. That's right, you're not going to put your hands out.
That's right.
I'm sorry. I take that. Ooh, I never I take my dad somewhere to do stuff. I'm just like it. Thank you.
Well, as long as you don't judge me by the tie I don't wear, because I'm a Duke alum, not a state alum or UNC alum, so
Yeah, we
could
just-
tie on an early conversation.
We just try to make a good sense of humor to, you
And
know,
that's most welcome.
we do a lot of dull, dry stuff, so I try to add a little sense of humor to it sometimes.
Thank you for
All
that.
right, do you affirm
Yes.
that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but truth, so help you?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, we'll hear from you at this time.
Okay. As Mr. Lynch has started with briefing you guys on, first, my name is Phyllis Bryant. I'd like to omit my telephone number because I am...
That's okay, just tell us your address.
Yes, my address, which is now up for debate, is 3169 Thelma Road, Roanoke Rapids, and I have a permanent mailing address of 4900 North Roxborough Road, apartment 420 in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay.
I have this residence solely because I have CML. I also have had 6 back surgeries,
Okay. Now, what is that CML?
chronic myelogenous leukemia.
Okay, go ahead.
Since I've had it since 2005, I had to have an apartment locally because I had to be on the transplant waiting list. So forgive me, today was a rough day. I drove here by the cemetery where all 3 of my family are buried. My mother just died in 2020. My last family member. So, I'm sorry. This is my fiance, Horace Swidring, and he's been invaluable to me these last 3 years. This is my family home. A place where I can tell you grows potatoes versus corn. I have very rarely in my life spent more than a few hours inside the house, but I've spent mostly my entire life on that land. My father worked that land before me. My sister and my mother worked it while I wasn't there, away at school. So this is my home. I know nothing else. But my health isn't the best. I have a speech impediment, so forgive me if I use the wrong word. I still call it my mother's house. Why do we do that as children? We never see it as ours. I still don't. No, I've never contended that the house is in immaculate condition. And I will start to explain. In 2020, I realized when I got the tax listing form in the mail that this mailbox was unsecure. My mother had been a victim of some gypsy sisters in a scam that's still available on Google today, and Thelma Road. If you just Google Gypsy Sisters in Thelma Road, it comes up. They did a huge amount of damage to our home, and so this is another long-standing saga in the damage they have left me to fix. They financially took advantage of my mother making faulty home improvements. My mother had dementia for 26 years. She fought tooth and nail to stay here with us. And she attempted many repairs herself. The evidence is clear. She loved the place because she tried. She just didn't throw up her hands. For 3 years, we tried to build a home on that property, hence the demolition order the demolition estimate we got. But we've been red taped with rural development for nearly a year and a half. We'd like to build a handicapped accessible home there because it is my home. But there's not a set of stairs on that house that I can get into. I used to bound up those steps like there's no tomorrow. Happily sitting on them to do my homework even. But I can't get in the house very much anymore. But don't tell me that's not my home. Because it is. I know every facet of it. My dad built the barn when he was 65 years old, and I helped him with it, carrying nails up and forth. It's my home. I disagree. This disagreement with the tax office has gone on for 3 years. And it's added to my grief, so hence my emotion here today. Innocently enough, I got the tax listing form in the mail, and I realized that this is vital information coming to a rural mailbox that I may not get in time, and some of these people that would otherwise do me harm would get this information. So I called in and said, can you please add a mailing address of record? And that started the domino, the absolute domino of my mother's exemption being removed. And as a disabled person with limited means of earning income, I have to watch every penny. My mother would be grateful that I do. She was quite the thrift. And I'll continue with my prepared remarks. Thank you, babe. I will start here by saying I applied for the exemption originally in 2020 after I received, I got ahead of myself. I originally applied for the exemption in 2020 when I received the notice saying that my mother's exemption would be removed because she was not in residence in the house. She was at Signature Nursing Home in Roanoke Rapids, still a Halifax County resident. I had to fight to get that returned and put back on the property. That would have cost me $200 and some odd in additional tax, something that is almost a sixth of my monthly income. Going on further, once I had that reinstated, my mother unfortunately passed away in June of 2020. And I requested my disabled exemption at that time. At that time, I originally made an appeal here to this board. My appeal, it didn't get that far. Mr. Lynch told me by phone that he approved it and sent me a letter where he had put back on my mother's exemption, but not saying anything about my disabled exemption until the next tax year, when I realized I did not receive a form saying I needed to verify my income, which is required by the general statute, and I was more than willing to do that. So I didn't have that. And I was afraid that I would be taxed on the full $22,800 in valuation, which the value of the property was at the time my mother was in the house and in the nursing home. It had been that value for well over 10 years. Knowing, looking forward, as my mother always taught me to do, she said, always pay attention to such matters. But there was a clear disconnect between what the general statute says, which says you're allowed temporary absences for nursing care, etc. And in my case, for going back and forth for medical care, I had to literally argue the point. I had to argue the point exhaustingly so. 3 years in, I still don't have a disabled exemption, and the reasons keep changing. It's like the benchmark keeps changing. As I justify one, there's another. My home is not in the best condition. I will stand here and tell you that. It's 86 years old. It was never meant to be a home. It was a hunting lodge by Mr. Willis Murphy, who sold it to my father back in the early 60s. It didn't have a back door. It had a tree at the back door, for goodness sakes. It had no electrics for running water, but it was sold as a family home. Yet now you say it is inhabitable, or the appraiser says it's not inhabitable? Well, I grew up without electricity. I grew up without running water. My definition, there's a solid dwelling there. It has a living room. It has a kitchen. I made breakfast there this morning. And we now have the benefit of hindsight. Since that appraisal came in April of 2021, the house is still standing as of this morning. And Lord, I hope it stays standing for a lot longer. All the meanwhile, my health is deteriorating. Our economy, everything has changed in these 3 years that I've been fighting this battle. My permanent residence has always been Halifax County, 3169 Thelma Road. Even before it was 3169 Thelma Road, it was Rural 1, Box 152F, when I got a learner's permit years ago. I don't doubt that the house is not in the best condition, but I am more than willing to make accommodation and change that. I simply have to have ducks in a row to do that. However, my current dwelling in Durham, my apartment, is under renovations, and that may not be available to me much longer. So having someone say this is not my home, this is not my permanent residence, is most frightful, considering I have lived in that house all of my years, since shortly after I was born. I actually climbed out of the crib right after I was born. My mother made more than mention of that over the years. But nevertheless, Mr. Lynch presents to you one way, but over the phone, he hasn't presented that way to me. He's caused me great hardship. In fact, in my most recent request for help, I contacted Michael Ray's office, who is our 27th House District Representative, to try to get some extra insight, some help mediating this. His response was to Ms. Burleson's, Mr. Ray's assistant, was basically say, my comments have been borderline illegal. Now, I know the law a little bit, and I know that there's a way of checks and balances. And you either are illegal or you aren't. And it sort of has to balance out. There's no borderline in law. But nevertheless, reading that when it's given to an elected official, it's really hostile to see that. It reflects how I've had to deal with him as a Halifax County property owner, as a disabled one, as a one who's just lost their mom, their last living relative, who lives a different lifestyle. I don't live, most people sit in their recliners and watch TV. I don't. I go out putting in a big 3/4 to an acre garden with one leg, and right now a cracked foot. I try. My garden is not, I don't have a single plant in this year. But this doesn't, I digress because I'm in pain and I'm a little tired. But nevertheless, this is my home. It is my permanent residence. I cannot say that it's in the best condition. I'm left with this quandary, not for my own doing. My mom sure tried to keep up the home. But at the same time, you can't take what I did as a planning for building a new home to say this one, yes, my mom's house was unsanitary at the time of, that problem has been rectified. There are some issues with the home. It's 86 years old. It's not built to any modern code. I can tell you that, but it's my home. It's where I know every facet of it. And I dare say anyone to say otherwise. Who would choose to live in Durham where you can't hear the birds? And just last night I heard more birds, and last week there was an owl that landed on my mother's clothesline. I'm sorry, where do you get that experience but here, in my own property, in my backyard? So I thank you for listening to me. I hope you understand that this is a very emotionally charged thing for me because this is my homestead, a modern way of calling it. But it's where I was raised. It's where my father worked so hard and to make a home. And that's the last thing I have of them. And I remember them there. And that's my home. And I'd like to make it a home for the future. I'd like to have that exemption in place. So when that house is built, that little log cabin that I'd like to put there, that I can get into is built, that it won't be such a burden for myself to manage. And my fiance also to manage. I hope you can understand that I'm trying to take care of business, and this pandemic, getting contractors, getting labor, and fixing things. And I do dread painting the house. I have done so for 27 years by myself. I still dread painting that cement block house. So if you want, I would really appreciate your help in getting this disabled exemption. I really hope that this is not a matter that we have to ever come back and address again. And I really do hope that you will see this is my home. I thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Bryant. Any questions, comments from the commission?
Is that a tent in the backyard?
Yes, ma'am, it is, and I appreciate you mentioning that. I put the tent there because working in the garden flares my back condition. I have severe muscle spasms, and I'd rather spasm in private, in somewhat level of privacy.
All right. Anything else from any of the commissioners?
I just have one question
Go
for
ahead.
Mr. Lynch when I.
Okay.
it's appropriate.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Bryant at this point? Attorney Ross, you have anything you want to add? Okay. If not, thank you, Ms. Bryant. You may have a seat now.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynch, back up, please.
I just want to be very clear.
Sure.
No value to the house.
Correct, no value to it. If I could just make a comment or two, and I completely understand where Ms. Bryant is coming from. I think we need to focus on definitions here, okay? By her description up here, and I'm not saying she didn't stay there last night or cook breakfast there this morning, she's looking at, in my opinion, this is my opinion, as permanent residence as the same as what we here call home place. All right, I have a home place. I don't live there. Okay, I own it. I inherited it. It's there, but I don't stay there. You know, I'm just like she. That's very sentimental to her. That piece of property is very sentimental to me. However, I don't live there. Okay, and, but I did hear her say that some of the issues with the home from her appeal in 2020, I'm sorry, have been remedied, some of them, if you can stay there, okay. Well, so there's no way for me to know that, Ms. Bryan, unless you report those improvements to me, okay. So, to agree to disagree, I can't make a recommendation to this board about this subject. My decision has been made. However, I would be willing to put very poor condition on the house to give it value for it to meet the standard of a residence if you want to approve the application for Ms. Bryant. I just can't see doing it with the building having no value. If she says some of the problems that were outlined in the appraisal submitted have been remedied, we don't have to go inside and look. She can just tell us where they are. But my denial was based on the fact there was no building value in the property.
All right, thank you. I think the assessor requests that this board make a determination as to whether or not Ms. Bryant is entitled to the disabled exclusion described under North Carolina General Statute 105-277.1. All right, Commissioners, do y'all have any questions of Mr. Lynch, or we can even bring Ms. Bryant back if you have questions of her? Do you have anything that you all want to say?
Let me be clear, the house has not been demolished. Is that right?
It's standing,
It's standing.
right. But like a lot of houses in the county, so my job as the assessor is to put a market value on a house. And if a taxpayer submits an appraisal to me, a third-party appraisal at that, saying that the house has no value, is actually going to be, it's going to be a cost to demolish it, then it's my job to remove the value from that, because I have to ask myself, if this property were to sell, what would it sell for? And so that's why, so it's standing there, as we do have a lot of unsound properties. If you're riding down the highway and you see a house with no windows, and we probably still have the sketch of that house on our property record, but doubtful we have any value to it.
And Ms. Johnson, in your agenda packet, there are some recent photos of the property.
Yes, all right.
Those are recent
They're
photos.
recent, okay.
And also, too, put my real estate hat on, it's not unusual for, and I got a personal situation over in Northampton County. I think when you were in Northampton County.
Yeah, that's how I
you
met
met me
Mr.
with
Bryant
that.
about
That's a long
15
time
years
ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have property over in Northampton County that we own, my family, and the house has no value, but the land does. But the house is still standing as we speak now. Okay, all right.
I want to be very clear. I really want to be clear. The house has no value,
Correct.
which means we can't exclude the acre.
No, so the land value is part of the overall value. Okay. So if this, say the house just hypothetically had $1,000 value, and I was to say, okay, then that's your residence, that's where you're gonna go when you have nowhere else to go, okay? Then I would exclude the $1,000 on the house, the value of the 1 acre of land, and any outbuildings. That's what we would apply the exclusion to. In this situation, being that those values totaled are less than the minimum $25,000, it will exclude all taxes, not fees. You'll still have to pay for trash collection, okay? Because that's not a tax, that's a fee, okay?
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Johnson?
For the attorney,
Mm-hmm.
if he does place a value on that house, and then they could be exempt.
Let me do mine.
Do your.
Very good.
Yeah.
Because all I want is clarity for this board when you're trying to make a difficult decision. This homestead exclusion that's allowed under the Constitution is intended for people to take advantage of if they're disabled or elderly, or even veterans. I think in some instances, I can get this confused. They're not, they're too far out. My expertise here. But it's intended if it's your primary residence where you live, you're entitled to that homestead exclusion if you meet certain requirements, which obviously is private. It's also not a problem at all if you're temporarily living somewhere else, particularly for medical reasons, as she's doing, says that's not an issue here at all. The issue here, the quandary we have here is that a couple of years ago, we had a request for revaluation with an appraisal that was submitted under the line that indicated by the appraiser that the home was inhabitable and ought to be demolished. Okay. And that's what put the tax assessor in the situation of having to say, okay, no value. Well, then that by definition creates a situation where how can it be your primary residence if it's not habitable? We've heard some testimony today from Ms. Bryant that she does stay there, or she can stay there, and she wants to improve it. And that's a good thing on a lot of different levels. And the question is, back to your question finally, sorry. If the tax assessor were to revalue or reassess the home as being poor quality as opposed to, I forget what it was.
Unsound.
Unsound, as opposed to unsound. Then we're back to where, okay, we've got a house that's habitable, poor quality, but habitable. And at that point, that may be something that the exclusion can be applied to.
And what would a motion to that extent sound?
Here's the difficulty with that. Because you've now brought two issues, and there's only one issue before you right now. At the present moment, is Ms. Bryant entitled to the statutory homestead exclusion? That's the issue before you. It's really a different scenario if Shane were to go back and say, okay, let's rethink this, given what Ms. Bryant has indicated today. The house is now classified as poor as opposed to unsound. Then we probably aren't going to see Mr. Bryant and Shane after that, because he can then apply the exemption, all things being equal, assuming all other factors are still in place as they are. And I wouldn't tell him what to do. This is why I don't want you to tell him what to do about value. That's his job. He's the assessor. And I've told you all as a group many times, don't get involved in the assessor's job. It's not where you want to go. So it's almost as if I don't want to say that you would defer something today. It's just that you might say, you might suggest that you go back and reconfer, Mr. Assessor, if you're going to reconsider what the value or the condition of the property is. And at that point, her application for exclusion is still pending. Mr. Lynch could then reconsider what he's going to do with that, and it might not be that. It almost sounds like and I'm really, Ms. Johnson, you always do this with me, but I'm always trying to think through this and how you deal with this issue today, and you either approve or you deny on an appeal like this.
But if you defer.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, please.
All right. So on a non-reappraisal year, which is what we're in, our last reappraisal year was 2020. Our next reappraisal year is coming up January 1st, 2024. I can only adjust value based on physical improvements, okay? Well, obviously, something's been done since her appeal in 2020. That's a physical improvement that I was today made aware of, which means if I want to adjust the value, this is not an appeal, this is not anything other than the value that we have on for the 2023 tax year was based on bad information. Additional information was learned today, I can readdress the value based on that. Yes, Mr. Webb.
I got a few questions. And you said that there was some improvement that you just learned today.
Well, she said that some of the things in her appeal from 2020 had been remedied.
Yeah. And my question is that,
Sure.
is there any documentation that she has to say that I had a contract come out, remodel this, or upgrade this? Just start saying.
She may or may not, but in listing real property improvements, we go on good faith anyway.
2023?
Sure, and I have some from last week as well.
Last week also.
Yeah, I have some hard copies I wasn't able to get done.
Now, I guess my other question to this is that, maybe over Ms. Johnson, is that if you live in Durham, okay, is that an apartment that you live in?
Yes, it is.
And is that a year-to-year lease?
Yes, it is.
And
It's the most affordable option.
I understand, and that's a year-to-year lease, correct?
Yes.
And where do you vote at?
I vote here in the last 14 elections.
You vote here?
14
So you-
years that
So you do
there's
have
a
a voter
bill.
registration card if you vote here?
Yes, I voted Victory Church, yes, sir.
And driver's license?
Has been here since I was permitted. It's never been questioned at all. Even when I've been pulled over, I've explained this is my home. And as I wanted to add that from what I have made comments here, your home is where you're expected to return. Now, have I said anything that would imply I'm not planning to return? No, it's home. I thank you for asking questions.
Okay, all right, Commissioner Webb, did you finish? Get more? Go ahead.
How long is temporary? I guess, Lord.
Well, and great question from another lawyer. There's no case law on that, but there is an AG's opinion about a particular taxpayer who was in a nursing home for more than 6 months. And the AG's opinion at that time was that that would not prevent someone from getting the homestead exclusion. And it's very, that's an issue that we actually, between Shane and I, haven't seen as being something to make an issue of today.
I've approved hundreds
We're
of.
confident that given her circumstances and having to be in Durham where she is, we really didn't want to make an issue of that. The real issue for us was the condition of the home and whether it really, if it's inhabitable, how could it be a permanent residence? And I feel like we've made some movement on that question today, and that it's something that Shane may be able to go at. And the stat you mentioned, when you get new information, you can make changes in value between revaluation periods based on improvements. And that may get us to a point where instead of having no value, we have a house of very little value.
Yeah, the next condition step up is very poor, which is by definition in our schedule is major disrepair, but it does not reference anything about, I'm not the building inspector, so I can't tell somebody if they can live in their house or not.
I am. Does the value at least need to be up to 25,000?
There's no minimum or maximum of value, no. So it's based, our valuation schedule is based on square footage. So when I take it from, if I were to take it from unsound to very poor condition, it would add a dollar amount per square foot and then value it accordingly.
But our job today is to determine this appeals outcome or.
You can, based on the information that I'm open to revisiting the value, then you don't have to make a decision on the application denial, because if I decide to put value on it, then I'll approve it.
So you just need direction about what you just said. That's it, right?
I don't even need direction. Yeah.
I think what Shane's trying to tell you on is she now wants to tell you what to do. Because it's probably deferred doing something that we've got.
Okay.
We've gleaned information today, and I appreciate everyone's time, but we've gleaned information that may give him an opportunity to take another look at the property card.
From a different perspective, yes.
All right. Okay, commissioners, everybody okay with that? All right.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Also knows that we never try to do the job.
Hey, I'm super taxpayer friendly. As you know, I bring late applications on behalf of senior citizens and disabled people all the time. Unfortunately, I'm bound by black ink on white paper in that book, and it really restricts me sometimes.
And we respect you for that.
Oh, yeah,
All right.
and because you always go above and beyond. I see you got two of your colleagues back
Yeah,
there, too. That's
Lynn
a lot.
has reviewed the property, so I brought her in today, and then, of course, Doris for support.
Okay. All right, thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate you. All right, and thank y'all, Ms. Bryan, and thank you for being here as well.
You don't understand what we're doing for now.
Yes, I just like something confirmed.
Mr.
Because this has been a while.
So we won't take up the commissioner's time in doing this. Mr. Lynch can kind of get you in the corner outside to and explain to
Fair
you what's
enough.
going on, okay?
All right,
All
fair
right.
enough, thank you.
Okay, this time we're going to move to item B on the agenda, which is the animal control enforcement towns. We'll hear from Deputy County Manager C. Renee Perry.
Good morning. Good morning. So there have been several towns that have approached our animal control manager. Mr. Robert Richardson is here in support as well if you guys have questions. They have approached Robert Richardson about the process of having our department enforce animal control within their town limits. And of course, that includes all the municipalities except for Roanoke Rapids because they have their own animal control. So Halifax County Management has been in conversation with those 6 towns to discuss a plan to have Halifax County enforce the county's ordinance within those town limits. Most of them have decided not to move forward just due to cost, but a few are still interested. Those that are still interested include the town of Scotland Neck, town of Halifax, in which we currently have an interlocal agreement, but the town of Halifax doesn't currently pay anything as of right now, and the town of Littleton. So we are awaiting confirmation from upcoming town board meetings to determine if we are moving forward or not. If there are any ordinances already in place within those towns, the towns understand that the county will not enforce or take on the responsibility of enforcing the town's animal control ordinances. Therefore, if such ordinances are in place, they will need to rescind those ordinances and adopt a resolution pursuant to General Statute 153A-122B to permit the county ordinance to be applicable within those towns. The towns also understand that they must also negotiate an interlocal agreement with the county pursuant to Article 20, Chapter 160A of the North Carolina General Statutes. This agreement will, of course, be approved by all the local town boards as well as the Board of Commissioners. The agreement will need to address the county's commitment to provide enforcement services and the town's commitment to assist with funding the added cost of personnel associated with those services. So in preparation for this change, the Board of Commissioners support and approval. Health has already unfunded one of their positions and funded an animal control officer if everything is approved. So that means no additional cost. No additional cost and no additional positions. That's what you were looking for? Yeah, right. We don't need money, which is wonderful. So in your agenda packets, the cost has already been determined by staff by taking the population within each interested town and applying their population to the entire Halifax County population to determine what percent that town would be responsible for. And so if you just take a look at your spreadsheet that's in your agenda packet, of course, it's based off the entire personnel budget for animal control, which is about $391,000, well, almost $392,000. So the county of Halifax, of course, we already cover about, well, not right now, I guess it'll be more if the other towns decide not to move forward, I'm sorry. So, for example, the town of Halifax is very small, so their share would be 0.34%. The town of Littleton would be 1.14, and the town of Scotland Neck would be 3.37. And so that the major cost, the biggest cost would be for the town of Scotland Neck because they're larger. We reached out to the town of Enfield. They had a conversation with their board. They decided not to move forward. So, but we did reach out and offer this to all of the municipalities. So, but the major takeaway is there's no additional cost for the Board of Commissioners, for the board. So, I'm sorry, for Halifax County citizens. I apologize. So are there any questions about any of that information?
What about Weldon Hopgood?
So Weldon has a part-time person right now, and I think he works 1 hour a week. Hopgood said they can't afford it.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners? Mr. Richardson?
Yes, sir.
You're the supervisor. How you feel about this?
I'll let him answer those questions.
Okay.
I'm standing off to the side.
All right.
In conversations with county management, I did express that we are stretched with just our county residents and that we would need another officer.
Right.
Just to take on those towns. If we were to take on the other bigger towns, we may need more.
Right.
But what we've been working with for the last 15 years, we've made it. So we
Right.
can make it with one other officer.
Right.
I did make myself available to the city councils in case they did have questions, because a lot of times it's a misunderstanding, but
Yeah.
they didn't reach back out.
I did talk to Littleton 2 weeks ago because I assisted their one chief on a
Right.
cruelty case, and he really expressed his need. He did need a need, but we assisted him. We couldn't do it, but I did guide him on how to do it.
Right.
Basically, you know, we can make it work.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. Appreciate all that you do and your guys too for the county. Thank you so much. And if things go forward, you know, we'll make it work.
yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, we do need now, when we do this motion, is it subject to the towns approving it?
Yes, sir.
Does the motion need to be made along those lines?
I would say, sir, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, let me, I think at this point, what we need is just your authorization to continue on the process, because what's going to happen is that we're going to have an interlocal agreement eventually that will require adoption of a resolution at a later time.
Right.
But
Consensus to do it?
we wanted you to know what the incentive setup was. That is, each town would adopt a resolution to enforce, to have our county ordinance applicable in their town. We would then enforce our county ordinance within their town under the terms of an interlocal agreement, and they would help with the funding on the basis we formally proposed here. So there's not so much for you to take action on them informally, except to say, yes, move forward with anyone who wants to consider doing this and come back. Well, if it ends up, you know, maybe they change their minds, I don't know. But we wanted you to know ahead of time. We didn't want to walk in and say, hey, all these towns want us to do this. How do you feel? And we said, what? So this is kind of so we don't have any surprise on you. So I'm not entirely sure we need any particular action today unless you're just opposed to pursuing this goal.
We're going to hear from the county manager.
Just to give you a little bit more background, this request was born out of numerous requests, particularly from the town of Scotland Neck, requesting assistance with animal control. And so after some conversations with health department, with animal control, we decided that if we were able to take on one or more municipalities, we would need a staff member. But it also actually helps the county as well, getting that extra body to help enforce our ordinance. And as you can tell, it'll be a very low cost to the other towns, so it's a tremendous service that we will be able to provide. And that would offset some of the county's costs as well. But this is multiple conversations from the towns requesting that the county assist them.
Yeah. Okay, with that being said, with a head nod, commissioners, are we okay with moving forward? Ms. Brewer? Okay, all right. Okay, thank y'all. All right. Okay, at this time, we're going to move to board appointments. Madam Clerk, if I omit, please help me, okay? I know you will. Okay, the first one is Adult Care Home Advisory Committee. Receive nominations to reappoint a wonderful lady, Ms. Hattie Staten. What is your pleasure? Motion by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Alcohol Beverage Control Board. Receive nominations to reappoint Tyrone Williams or appoint Gregory Browning. I would make a motion that we appoint Tyrone Williams and hold Gregory Browning's application on file. Okay, motion made by Commissioner Bryant, second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye. All opposed, like sign? Okay. Next item is receive nominations to appoint William Crickmore replace James Michael Hale on this Central Communications Advisory Board. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, Halifax Community College Board of Trustees receive nominations to appoint Mike Mills or appoint Patricia Peel or Portia Shields. I make the motion that we appoint or reappoint Mike Mills and hold Patricia Peel and Portia Shields' application on file. Motion made by Commissioner Bryant, second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. Madam Clerk, Halifax County Council on Aging, is that next? Okay. All right, receive nominations to reappoint Helen Bush and Barbara Fleming. Motion made by Commissioner Johnson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Then we got one said, receive a nomination to appoint individuals to replace Brenda Osby and James Waller. We'll just hold that open for consideration, and that's something we need to think about. If you know of someone that may be good for that, you know, we need to just bring those names forward and give it to Madam Clerk, and so she can talk with them. Halifax County Economic Development Commission Board, receive nominations to reappoint Sherry Jensen. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor by the sign aye. All opposed? Receive nominations to waive the term limits and reappoint Ronnie Lott, who's a great chairman, and Benjamin Sledge. All right, motion made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. You know, the next one is the jury commission, and just before we do that one, I got a question. Is that commission functional?
It was when I was on it. I think they still do.
You served on it before?
I did. I
Okay.
had to come off and I can't do it.
Right. Okay. I just had that question. I never heard anything about it except when we make appointments to it.
Big time, I mean, we screened
Oh,
every registered voter.
Okay.
We moved the ones who moved out of the county off.
purge them off?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Receive nominations to waive the term limit and reappoint Annette Lyles. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Receive nominations to reappoint Stephen K. Park Jr. to the Library Board. Motion by Commissioner Johnson. There a second? Second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Receive nominations to waive term limit and reappoint Dolores Harvey Amundson. Motion by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Nursing Home Advisory Committee. Receive nominations to reappoint Davin Moore, Clarence Pender, and Isabel Pender. Okay, motion by Commissioner Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Whew, we're going through them today, aren't we? Roanoke Canal Commission. Receive nominations to reappoint Greg Brown. Motion by Vice Chair Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Social Services Board. Receive nominations to reappoint Elise Frederick. Okay, motion by Commissioner Johnson. You want a second, Commissioner Smith? Okay, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Okay. All opposed? Upper Coastal Plain Workforce Development Board. Receive nominations to waive the term limit and reappoint Kelly Barber, Crystal Lyons, Charles McEhaney, Clarence Pender, and Kathy Scott, or appoint Jennifer Mason to a current member. Commissioners, my recommendation at this point would be to, and I'm gonna make this motion, is that we reappoint Kelly Barber, Crystal Lyons, Clarence Pender, and Kathy Scott, and we're gonna hold a position that Charles McEhaney open at this point, and that Jennifer Mason applied for as a replacement. Can we just hold that open, Ms. Scott?
I was going to say, Crystal Lyons doesn't live here anymore. She does not work for Reesers any longer. That might be one that you table as well.
Okay,
for
thank you.
consideration, just to make that clear.
Right, thank you so much. I like to include that in my motion, okay? Madam Clerk, you got that? Yes. Everyone else okay with what I'm saying? Okay. Right, and, right. Kelly, Barbara, Pender, and Scott are the ones that we'll recommend at this time, and the waiving the term limit to reappoint Kelly and Barbara, and then, of course, Clarence Pender and Kathy Scott. And we're just, Crystal Lyons, we're leaving that position open because she's moved. Crystal McElhaney, who's already on the board, we're holding that for right now, and then Jennifer Mason, we'll make a decision about it later.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Bryant, second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Weldon Planning. Wow, Edna Weeks been there for a long time. Receive nomination to appoint Julia Sharon Jr.
So moved.
Okay. Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Johnson. Any further discussion? All those in favor by the sign aye. All opposed? I think Ms. Weeks, she's been there, what, at least, is it 4 or 5 years, that long? It's been a while. Wow.
We're so happy these people want to serve.
Amen, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah. Yep. You're right, Ms. Johnson. Okay, is that it, Madam Clerk? Okay. All right. Ooh, that was a mouthful. Ms. Scott, Economic Development Report. We'll hear from you, our Executive
Good
Director.
morning. I'll try to be brief because I know you already have this information, and I'm sure you looked at it this weekend and familiar, but a few things I'd like to point out. And I did make a couple of modifications to this. I added a meeting I attended recently for the reentry committee for Halifax County. I think that's such an important initiative in our county, and I want to make sure I highlight it. So on the web version of this, it's been updated. One thing I want to point out is our unemployment rate. We have never had recorded in history of Halifax County verifiable in documentation an unemployment rate of 4.6%. So that is amazing, and that represents 872 people in our county that are currently unemployed. Now, we've had 4.8%, a year ago, but 4.6% is the lowest that I can find on the books. Our building permit values for April are listed there, just over $5 million. Compared to a year ago, it was $179 million. Of course, that was Roseburg getting started and getting their building permits, so a little skew there. But our retail sales remain robust, just over $51 million compared to $48 million a year ago in March. So our economy is continuing to do well. Let's hope it continues. There's always this talk about a recession on the horizon. But for the foreseeable future, we're doing pretty well. I wanted to point out two single-family housing permits. This is permits to construct single-family homes, not mobile homes. These are single-family homes. And if you look, there's been a surge over the years. We've been keeping up with it very strongly since 2019. And you see 33 new permits in 2019, 31 in 2020. 46 in 2021, 42 in 2022, and then just through April of this year, we've got 20 new single-family housing permits. This is how we grow our population, by having additional housing being built in our community. So that's really glad to see that, and Chris Roundtree and his team, they're feeling the effects of all these permits that they have to write, because not only is it a building permit, then it becomes a mechanical permit and a electrical permit and all that. So they do a really good job of trying to stay above it. I did want to point out that we had a group from Washington, D.C. here funding as a part of the Rural Partners Network. And thank you to Dr. Elliott and Dr. Fields at Halifax Community College for helping to organize this at the last minute. And I'm talking about last minute before a holiday weekend almost. And, it was tough to get this done. But it all came through, and it'll be a really good showing and talk about workforce development initiatives and for Halifax County to be a positive part of this highlight. And then, I mentioned the reentry roundtable that was held on May 25th.
you know, we had some tremendously inspiring testimonials from people who have previously been incarcerated and how the support programs available to them have helped them change their lives. And we look at opportunities for employment, and we hear employers that are really screaming about employees and needing to find people that they can train for jobs. And there's such a pool here. There's so much of an opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. So something I'm very much care about, and I'm on the committee that is trying to help get this roundtable started. And I really admire Judge Branch and Judge Robinson, the programs that they are putting together to try to support this roundtable and help with these reentry, help people get their records expunged, and things that you can do to help, you know, really be that foundation to help them change their future. So I'll keep you posted on this. This is something very dear to me. Roseburg's continue on. We're almost done with this sewer relocation project. If we can get the paperwork done, right, Glenn? We'll be able to get it done. Thanks to Glenn. He's had to be the attorney for everybody to get this finished. Fairfield by Marriott, there's site work is happening now, so very glad to hear that. There have been some cost increases for the company that's building the hotel, but they'll overcome all that. It's just been a little bit of a struggle. And I know y'all know this because they talked about this at the open house for the airport, but there's a hangar, a corporate hangar under construction at the airport that the goal is for it to be, to house maintenance operations, which will be a real driver for additional opportunities at the airport, so hopefully that moves forward. A lot of construction going on, you know, you see it in our community. I sent out information to you when people reach out to me. I just try to forward it and make sure you all know, but we're not involved in a groundbreaking for Toyota of Roanoke Rapids, but we certainly want to let you all know about it and help them and support the Chamber of Commerce in having a groundbreaking, because that is a major development that has been talked about for a while and finally happening, and definitely will be kind of a stimulus for other development at that 125 interchange. Continue with our ongoing projects. The Truist Bank in Halifax, looks like that's working out for the town to purchase that. So we have our videos now that are completed. In our last newsletter, there was a link to the Halifax Corporate Park. I will be sending out in our next newsletter the infield video. Our major marketing, economic developers don't traditionally use Facebook and Twitter and those kinds of social media to get our message across, because they're mainly, you know, for other venues of industry. But we do use LinkedIn, and we get a really good response. And I try to not be one of those that posts every day, but when there's something important to say, and I do try to do at least twice a month. But if you look at some of our recent posts, for the Bender Holtz announcement celebration of their opening, we got almost 7,000 views on LinkedIn, which is a professional. That's where you want to be seen in economic development. And then when we did our road show, we've got over 1,200. And, you know, the topics are light based on what they are, but to get that kind of response to Economic Development Roadshow, and you get I subscribe to the higher level LinkedIn to where I get to see who's looking, and it's really great when you see CEOs and people like that. So that's hopefully going to, you know, translate to more interest in our community. And then our newsletter, hopefully you get it. I send it through LinkedIn. Sometimes softwares block it, but if you're not getting it, let me know, and we'll make sure you get it another way. But we also have a YouTube channel, and we are posting our videos. It was amazing going back and setting up this YouTube channel to be a place that we could send links and get the information on, you know, how many people are looking at it. But we did a video for Halifax Horizons back in 2014. If you ever have a minute on your phone and you want something funny, and going back and looking 9 years ago, it's really funny, this video. And how much has changed in 9 years. So take a look at that. So really robust recent activity. I've got a project that I need to talk with y'all about, or two, in closed session, but been a really good month for economic development. So any questions?
Just one question. As we look at that 4.6, what areas are they in? It's health area, education area?
It's manufacturing is one of those. It's health. It's construction. There's a big demand for construction workers right now. So what's being filled isn't a drop in the bucket around here because you see all the construction. You know, we have Roseburg hiring now. We have Bender Holtz hiring. We have Resource hiring. This is their busy season. So manufacturing is a great big part of that, and that's good for us to hear. So thank you for that question. That's a good one. Any other
Okay.
questions? All
right.
right, thank you so much.
Ms. Scott, thank you for all that you do. Wow, I tell you, you just, wow.
Well, and I appreciate this time this morning to get some work done, you know?
Yeah,
Our
we
office
y'all-
is in disarray because we're painting and
I
putting new
know.
carpet down,
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's good to get away.
Want to recognize our utilities director. I apologize, I should have recognized you a long time ago. Chris Wills, raise your hand back there so we thank you for being here. And appreciate all that you do. You up and running. Ms. Bryant, we want to make sure now that you understood what I told you a few minutes ago about, just talk with Mr. Lynch, Shane Lynch, and he'll explain to you what needs to happen from this
Yes,
point,
he
okay?
did. He was going to email me. He said,
Okay,
yes.
very good. I just want to make sure. I didn't know if you,
Yes.
okay.
He did brief
All right.
me, yes.
All right, this time we're going to move to the county manager's report. Ms. Denton, we'll hear from you at this time, hard-working county manager on this.
Well, I'm happy to report that I have no report for you today.
Wow. Well, look, maybe I need to ask your illustrious colleagues over there. Okay, well, Attorney Rollins, you got a hard act to follow.
I was taking notes on what I wanted to say to you.
Don't forget it.
Quickly, and you may have read in your county weekly update you get from the NCACC about the court ruling in the Purdue Farmers Sackler appeal. That was resolved in favor of the settlement going forward. So we are looking to get, as I'm told, approximately another $100 million to North Carolina that will be distributed under the original MOA that we've had in place for some time now. So that's good news, unless the U.S. Supreme Court decides to take that up, and I don't think that's likely. The other thing I would mention related to that is that we're coming up on the time when we need to have another annual meeting under that MOA with the municipalities in the county. That's required annually, and this is about the time we're going to do that, and we'll discuss that in and make plans about that. But just another thing that we have to do under that settlement. That's about it. I will mention just briefly, very briefly, on our pending appeal in the Court of Appeals, the appellant's brief in the 911 funding appeal is due by the 11th or so of June. I expect that will be any day now, and then we will file our reply brief to that. And as soon as that's done, unless there's another response from the appellant, will be on some kind of calendar to be heard. So that's where that's standing right now. That's all I have. I just wanted to mention that to you. I have one question.
Okay, all right, thank you, Attorney Rollins. We sincerely appreciate all that you do for us, no question about that, and thank you so much. All right, on the other business, I have one matter. You have in your packet of information a letter of condolences regarding Dr. Fred Brown, who was a educator. He was a candidate for county commissioner one time and won in the primary and lost in the general election, but he was just a wonderful man, 92 years old, passed recently, and his family requested this. And so that's why I kind of put it together. And Madam Clerk always efficient, and she put it together real quick for me. And I was able to get to the funeral home before the visitation. Anyway, I just need your approval on this that was sent. Okay, motion made by Commissioner Johnson. Is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Brewer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, anything else on the other business before I ask for a motion to go into closed session? Okay, at this time, we need to go into closed session, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11. I know we got to approve the closed session minutes. What else? Ms. Scott, I know you had something.
I do have a client discussion.
Client discussion? Is it one or two?
Two.
Two, okay. All right, Attorney Rollins.
I have no legal matters to discuss.
Okay, Ms. Denton? Okay, all right, with that being said, can I get a motion to go into closed session for those two items? Economic Development Commission and closed session minutes? Motion made by Vice Chair Brewer, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Webb. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk, we are now in